Welcome back to Winter Wolf's Den, guys. We're picking up where we left off a couple minutes ago after our intermission. We are doing Andor Episode 5, The Axe Forgets. It's a fairly ominous title, and they definitely do that thing where they say the title in the episode, Family Guy style, and you're like, oh snap, he said it! And I'm like, alright, it kind of actually fit what the character was saying at the time, and you talk about that when we get there. Let me hit you with the synopsis real quick. On Aldhani, Clem, Andor, hides his past from his fellow rebels, distrust from most of them, and particularly Skeen. Tamron trains Cassian and the other rebels for the heist. While traveling to the Aldhani Imperial garrison, Cassian reveals that he's a mercenary. He's basically being paid to be there, and that, fuck your cause. He might not really care about it at this point. Team leader Vel decides to continue with the mission despite the crew starting to fray a little bit at the seams, and she decides to hold off dealing with Clem's past until they've achieved their objectives, if they do. And then meanwhile, Imperial officer and Rebel double agent Lieutenant Gorn covertly aid Vel's team. On Coruscant, Karn continues to... I didn't realize I was on Coruscant. That Karn is still getting emasculated by his mom as he explores new career prospects. Mon Mothma also establishes a new charitable foundation, which is super thrilling, while managing increasingly tense relations from her husband and daughter. Imperial Security Bureau Supervisor Blevin acquires a hotel as the new ISB headquarters on Ferrix. So there we go. We are going back to Ferrix. I forgot all about that. So we probably will see Bix again and other members of that network. And then lastly, meanwhile, rival Miro, that's Deirdre who we were talking about, and her assistant Hirt reach the conclusion that the rebels are conducting a series of coordinated heists of Imperial weapons and tech, while Rail anxiously awaits a transmission from Cassian's team. So the synopsis was long and a little verbose, but it hits at everything that really is going on. There's a lot to unpack in this episode. For me, I think the pacing's starting to suffer here, but I know you have a different take on it. You want to touch on that right quick while I queue up episode 5 on the timeline here?
So we're getting to episode 5, in which I believe episode 6 will be a kind of layered with episode 3. You're seeing this in like three episode build-ups. You have establishing, setup, payoff. And I think we're going to hit the same 3 with this one. We had the setup where we introduced Andor's Clem getting ready for this raid. That's establishing. This one will be setup where they're showing more of their plan, preparing for their plan, moving to the plan. And then I believe episode 6, we're going to see stuff go down. Payoff. And then it will go into the final, I believe, the final 6 episodes, the same divide, but I believe starting with episode 7, it's going to be a 6 episode build to the finale, because this would be the jump off point for Act 2.
Yep.
So that I believe the pacing is still going really well for what they're trying to do, and they're not establishing too many off-brand characters that we're tracking. Like, we established some Star Wars favorites with like Mon Mothma. And we're following.
You can lump them in
there. And then of course the Andor team, which we call it the Val team if you want to. It doesn't matter.
Which I mean, it's both. It'll be his, but whatever.
But then we also in this one we establish a possible bad guy that will face in episode 12, and also we have the growing of the ISB and a very determined junior lieutenant in the ISB.
Yeah, do true that. I could do a good quick breakdown right there, guys. So let's roll into these scenes real quick, because it starts off on something that I'll connect right again to the first episode, one of my down points. It's basically like a 5-minute stretch where Karn's mother basically berates him over breakfast about like not having prospects and what are you going to do, and the family never had any faith in any of your ability to work, but luckily we can call in a favor to your uncle, who might have some sway. He might be a power player somewhere. Dude, mom might be psycho and uncle might not be real at all, but probably not. Dude, I hate stuff like I can't say it enough, man. This feels ripped right out of like any primetime sitcom with like the overbearing mom. And it's, I guess if they sprinkle it quickly and get out, it's tolerable for me. But if they linger on this particular family dynamic for anything longer than a quick glimpse in episode 6, I'm just going to fast forward through these parts for our next review because I can't stand it. It's not that the actress is bad. I just don't like this dynamic at all as it's playing out. I know you got a different take on it a little bit. Why don't you hit me with it?
Yeah, as I pointed out in the when we talked earlier about episode 4, I believe this is a dynamic that's showing who he is. He's a underappreciated person of his family. He went a path that they didn't believe in. They don't believe that he's going to be able to do it. Yeah. And you're seeing like what is driving him. And then we'll see later a change as well. But the best way I can sum this whole thing up with him up until the very end of the episode is that meme with that Mexican guy with the mustache. He's like, and it's like me waiting for football season meme. And he's like sitting on a swing, just looking down. He's looking at a table. Yeah, he's standing by a pool, just staring off into nothing.
He's defeated.
That's this whole thing. Because you have that episode, him sitting on his bed, him staring at his Cheerio, his space Cheerio with his blue milk.
Yeah. Him staring out the window.
Yeah.
He was staring on the train, and I guess that probably sums Karn up nicely. But this is one of the subplots here. The B story or C or whichever one this is. Business needs to pick up here quickly. Like he either needs to kill this chick, there needs to be like a hand slapping the table outburst or something that just reestablishes him back into that. I've proven all you dipshits wrong once when I got the job and became, the lieutenant at was it Primorla, whatever the name of the company was, where he was basically the second in command at the security company. Like he did achieve something.
Yep.
He might have been a douche nozzle when he did it, but like he was somebody. So I hope we move past this kind of quickly because I don't want to grade on that too much.
Yeah, I mean, it's a standard overbearing mother conversation with her son, especially even like, you could have come and visit me type stuff. And it's like an open invitation isn't an invitation.
Yeah, right. Now, it's technically well done, but again, I just feel like it's Star Wars, and I guess maybe I'm just spoiled that like our frame of reference for good Star Wars are feature films, and they typically don't have time for that kind of character work in the movie.
Even though we do see it with Uncle Luke and Aunt Crispy.
Yeah, dude, I know, but remember, yeah, they did get crucified. But remember what I said pre-show about that? I said the difference in that for me, because I said that specifically, is we get that scene, but it's to a teenager who's kind of bitching and whining, and then they're gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if they hit me with 4 or 5 more sequences of this dude getting punked by his mom over breakfast and blue milk, I'll be like, bro, get your own apartment. You know what I mean? Move in with a friend, crash on a couch. Like it doesn't need, you don't need to do this.
Yeah.
But
we talked about sidetrack.
Yeah, good.
We talked about that scene where we have a whiny teenager. Luke was pretty whiny through that whole episode. And then
no doubt.
But if you go back and look at how Anakin was portrayed by Hayden Christensen, and he said he watched the original one, that might actually have been really good acting to portray himself in such a way where he models his son in the past with the acting type thing.
That I will only give them extra credit insofar as I think the prequels are being better reviewed now in light of the sequel trilogy. So you might be onto something there. But in the next scene here, back in present day or prequel to the prequel day, Andor wakes up in camp. He notices his gear is missing right quick. He runs outside, and I believe that's Skeen, who he sees having basically stripped down his gear bag and has gone through his stuff and laid it all out on like a table.
Yep.
And he's checking it out. Skeen lets him know, Vel wanted me to have a look. And this is where these guys kind of, they don't come to an agreement or anything like that, but they kind of figure out who each other are on a general level, where, they start off talking about how Andor's physical state when he got in, he was wounded and carrying like a corporate issue, like ISB sidearm. He goes, whose is it? Doesn't matter how I got it. They exchange a little bit of war storying about, where I came up and where you came up. And Skeen kind of points out a couple of tattoos he has that indicate certain crews or facilities that he's been locked up at and things like that. So I didn't mind this. See, this is good. This is interesting character building to me. Is you got 2 mercenaries having to come to like a little bit of common ground, or at least a minimal level of understanding, so we can at least maybe start the job and see what's going on here. Without going like quick drawing, putting each other down.
And we had a quick insight into Andor's past with his talk with Rail on the ship about being that, and then find out that he fought for the Empire because he was forced to, and then he found out that they were fighting themselves to wean them out. And now you find out that Skeen pretty much went through the exact same past he went through.
Yep, do true that. So again, this was a good little piece of character work here. This is also the quick note here. We get that quick glimpse where we see Vel and Cinta waking up in semi-close proximity to each other within the little cabin or the upright that they have set up. Skeen basically warns Andor off that Cinta's taken.
Yeah.
And then they open the next frame on Vel, so you're like, oh, okay. All right, so that's off limits. But again, whatever. People exist. That doesn't bother me any here. Everybody belongs in Star Wars.
Yeah, he said that. I think he said that
Skene's
she's
on
the
walk
bravest
away.
one or the toughest one of us all.
Okay, she did say that, and I was kind of like, all right, we're back on that, though, where it's kind of like, all right, you're telling me she's super brave, but she's had the least dialogue out of anybody, and the only meaningful action she's taken is basically dress his wound.
Yep.
Andor's blaster
Yeah,
wound
his
or
blaster
whatever.
burn he got.
So we know she's skilled. She's the medic. But like, is she really the toughest? Did she punch a grizzly bear? I don't know. I must have missed
Yeah,
that
and
part.
we haven't got any
I
of
guess
their
maybe
other
more will be revealed.
backstories, as Skeen is pretty much taking up the backstory antagonist of the group to Clem Andor.
Yeah, we get a little bit later from was it Nemec, the kid. He's the freedom fighter. He's the intellectual, the kid that's gonna change the world with ideas and all that good stuff. And I didn't mind his speech. We'll get to that in a little bit because I thought that little monologue was okay. Next scene up again is an absolute soul-crushing bit of momentum killing in the show. We're back in the Mon Mothma apartment. They're basically there's an activity for their daughter that's come up.
Yep.
That Mon Mothma says she's basically like taking time off from work to go do, but the daughter disinvites her. Douchebag husband's in the frame. He doesn't really offer any assistance to Mon Mothma at all. Basically sides with the daughter, in a passive aggressive way. But again, guys, the whole thing, just like from episode 1, this is 2 opportunities we could have seen Mon Mothma at work, interacting with people on her level and being a leader, where she could have been missing phone calls or communications from her family that kind of put her out there as being the absentee wife or mother or whatever. But the storming away from the dinner table in this episode, and the agitation over the invites and like the seating arrangement to the dinner party in the previous episode, like, this isn't the side of Mon Mothma I wanted to see. Where are you at with her so far?
What I took from the episode is exactly what you said. If I was to defend this episode, it would be either she's trying to be the mother of her daughter, but she's also seeing being in the Empire is how it's changing what her family is, and it's making her burn to destroy the Empire even more. I know it's a far reach.
Oh, dude!
Like, I'm hating it.
That is some level 6 mental gymnastics to get the pull up situation. There is gotta get up on them rings to pull that off.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can see people saying that online in Twitter comments and YouTube comments. I'm sure that's the defense, but for all the good intentions that approach to the writing and that character might have, I don't think that's not gonna pull it off for me whenever they resolve this arc, whenever episode that comes. Nope. Just like the Karn stuff, if I see the family in the same place again, and it doesn't sound like one of them's going to jump off the roof because they've been pushed too far, it's getting the fast forward button from me, for sure. Rolling through next, we're back at camp. This scene gets a little good here. It's Cassian talking with the different members of the team. He's talking with Nemec. He's talking with Skeen. He basically establishes himself as being knowledgeable at this point because Nemec breaks out a piece of guidance tech or something that Andor recognizes.
They give it like an old Sexton.
Yeah, there's like navigational stuff.
Yeah.
But he basically says, dude, it's hard to learn, but what's the expression? He says easy to learn, hard to master, something representative of the fact that he knows what it is, but he acknowledges its usefulness in opposition to the standard technology of the day, which makes for the interesting part of Nemec's monologue that he goes on, where he says, there's a growing list of things we've known and forgotten.
Yep.
And so he's basically saying, like, we've become comfortable in our technology, so comfortable that when things like the Empire come along, we lose little bits of ourselves piece by piece until it's too late.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, so here's some modern day politicking coming in here, and regardless of which side of the aisle you're on, you could probably find validity in these statements. Is you don't recognize the frog in the boiling pot. That's exactly what this is. Is you don't recognize you're boned until you're boned.
Yeah.
If they turn the heat up a degree at a time. So I liked Nemec's little monologue in there. I thought it was quite poignant for a Star Wars show.
Tell me a phone number you remember that's not saved in your phone.
Dude, my mom's house in my mom's town. That's it. That's the only one from back in the day when we were in junior high. That's that one, and maybe my own cell, because I've had it for 20 years.
Yep. My own cell phone number and my wife's
Yep.
are the only two that I really remember off the top of my head. Now, you take me back to middle school. I knew your number. I knew.
Oh, dude, for
I knew
sure.
Jeremy's number. I knew Avery's number.
Yeah. Because you had to. Dude, I was just saying this to my stepdaughter the other day. Dude, the first cell phones that came out, they had like screens like calculators. They had like 10 presets. You could only store like 10 numbers, and if you got bumped out of the 10, you were just gone.
Yep.
Like that was it. That shit was crazy. But that was the beginning of that, like that leveling down of like the things you're familiar with. So I thought this was a clutch little scene here that got a lot done. It also establishes a little bit of connection between Skeen and Nemec a little bit, where he's like, oh, the kid's full of big ideas, and they kind of jab about who trusts who. He's like, do you trust Andor? And his Skeen says back to him, I barely trust you, but then he bumps his shoulder or something. So it's like they're connecting these players as actual people and not just, Dungeons and Dragons characters where they rolled a random set of stats and slapped a name and a class on them. And I dig that.
And I think Nemec is the glue of the group. There's always that one guy who kind of he's in with everybody. Yeah. And that
means he's dead first, by the way.
Oh yeah,
that's exactly what that.
But
means.
That's what I see with Nemec. And this is the great scene. Side little bit of it is the different type of milk. And he's like, you to live off of it. He's like, he takes a drink. He's like, I wonder what it tasted like. But he's like, you might regret yourself after a little while, though.
Yeah. And then when Andor was walking away, he's like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, throws it away.
He just kind of ditches it. Yeah.
Drink up your milk, Clem. It's going to be a long day. And he's like, throw it in the fire.
Yeah, but maybe I'll be okay with that. So here's a little bit of plot point and contention that comes up next, and this is where I think the episode hits its high note for me here. I think this is the best Andor team scene in the episode is Vel and I think it's Tamarin's here because I think Gorn's already gone. I don't have him frozen up on the screen here, so I can't see. But basically, they're going over like what the runway situation's going to be. I think this is where they talk about timing and things like that. And then they reveal that they don't know specifically how to fly the effing freighter.
Yep. Like they didn't have a plan before he got there.
Test him. Right. That they were trying to test him about, well, how would you, was it break gravity or whatever tech thing they said? Whatever. Oh, that's right. It was a calibration question, right? And this is where Diego Luna shines right here. Like, he looks completely befuddled that these pinheads haven't figured out at least that.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I can do it. Why are you asking me that? And they're like, oh, we don't know if you can do it. Like, no, why don't you tell us how you would do it? And he's like, no, I can do that shit, but how do you not know? And I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Is this supposed to be an actual heist, or is this is Rail screwing them? Because how did they get this far if the whole plan centered around this particular aircraft and none of them knew how to do that? And Vel effing says, oh, we would have figured it out. With the garrison and TIE fighters running air cover,
coming down on you.
You were going to figure that shit out?
And having such a tight window of your coverage.
Right. Because basically they're up against, it's two ticking clocks if you think about it here. It's the TIE fighter intercept time, right? And it's also the atmospheric thing that they're trying to split through and use as cover behind them.
Yeah.
So they've got to hit multiple moving targets to get the objective done.
Yeah, and
this isn't a bank robbery.
Yeah, and he had to sit there and he had to get the information on, is it on a rail? It was like, what is the weight? He's asking these questions. He's like,
yep. Well, they were good.
Yeah, and they didn't have answers for him. And he's like, then he tells them there's a lever that you pull back. It has a little knob there that you would set the weight so you can move, properly, break gravity, whatever you have to do to fly the thing.
I think in that scene moves them outside where I think that's Gorn that's telling them about they have like kind of he's pointing in the horizon and just kind of like directing like what the distance is. The distance is right. There's a pitch to it and things like that. So they're basically they're still going over logistics of what's going on there. That was just a quick one, but the next interesting scene here is Gorn back with the Imperials, where I think he's creating the diversion that'll allow him to slip away. Is that what's going on here? Because he basically has his guys out with him. He's like, have this shit cleaned up before the next inspection, or it's going to be hell to pay, and yada yada. So I think he's moving assets out of the way so they can get in.
Yeah, and
or is this the exfil?
This is their infill. He's getting everything set up for their infill, and so that's the holy site that they go and witness it. They were talking about, like, could you imagine like 1,000 of them, what it will smell like? And you see the anger on his face.
Oh no, he's burned.
That's where you start seeing that's what's driving him. Is that there is someone of the locals that he had feelings for.
So we're talking about group roles earlier where, Nemec's going to be, if he's the glue that holds them all together and he dies first, I guarantee this guy gets himself killed sacrificing himself. Just based on that look of, could you imagine the smell? This is the dude that's going to be like Dom from Gears of War 3, that's going to drive the fuel truck into the checkpoint that kind of holds everybody at bay so the rest of the team can go. Like, that's going 100%, guaranteed.
Yeah, because
I'm buying lunch for everybody watching if that doesn't
because
happen.
This is personal for him.
Yeah. And as we learn a little bit later, we'll skip that scene when we get there. It's personal for Skeen too, that the Empire basically boned his brother out of farmland by flooding it, and then the brother, because he was frustrated and there was no rebellion, there was no law, there was nowhere he could turn, killed himself. Like, he drowned himself on his land, as a final FU to the Empire.
Yeah, the apology scene.
It's personal. I think it's going to be personal for all of them. Yep. That's right. That's when that came up. Yep. So that's. So we got them. He's setting up that there. We roll a little bit forward. Blevins come down to Ferrix. He's taken over the hotel to do his own little investigation.
Yep.
So like, okay, so this is where we're going to get Bix coming back in, and hopefully we get Marver and EMO Droid. Hopefully they make their reappearances. Tim's dead. I don't remember. Was there anybody else? Oh, Brasso.
Yeah, Brasso's the other
Brasso
one.
back on Bix.
Yep.
He's a good one.
And you're seeing that they're establishing a
back
parish, because that's one of the things from episode 4 when he had them all together. He's like, congratulations, you put this whole sector under Imperial control.
Yeah. So there must be, so if they're actually bringing him down to take over security responsibilities there, because mall security's been disbanded, that'll probably get good.
I think his
there.
name is Perrin, is the guy who's going to take over his parish.
Perrin is the ISB guy?
No.
Blevin.
There was a guy who came in his black suit, and he's like the hotel building. He's like, what do you think of this? He's like, for a hotel?
Oh, yeah.
How about your headquarters?
You're right, that was his name. Yep. True. Yep. All right, when we jump forward on that next go, this was another good little scene too, because again, it was a little basic in terms of what they point out, but it was effective for, again, building up Andor as being a bit of not an intellectual, but he's thinking. He's not just a hired gun. Where they're drilling, they're marching in formation. Tamrin's leading the column, kind of like getting them to like step in time and keep everything on the.
Get them to look like soldiers.
Right, exactly. So so they're basically marching towards a makeshift barricade or checkpoint that they're going to have to breach to get on the inside. Tamrin's given the instructions, like you said. But where it gets interesting is when they get to the gate. Andor points out that you should switch sides with the other guy because he's left-handed, and you'd want your weapon pointing outward. And as I was watching, I'm like, "Yep, dude, you'd never hold your weapon cross-body." Where in that kind of lineup where like you'd wing the guy next to you, like how would that ever?
Yeah.
Or you'd have to carry it in a certain way in that parade formation to not endanger anyone and to have it ready to use.
Yeah.
So he points that out.
Yes, he does.
And then and what I like about it even more is that Vel starts asking him, well, what's my dominant hand? What's this person's dominant hand? And he gets them all right, and he goes, oh, and Nemec's right-handed but shoots left. And I'm like, see? Because this motherfucker's paying attention to everything. And that's exactly the kind of shit I like. If this was a garbage show, She-Hulk, Rings of Power, any of the other MCU shit. And guys, I'm always going to dump on them because most of them are bad. Sorry. Not sorry. They just would have had a character show up and do this instantly with no foreshadowing and no backstory to point out or support that he ever would have this kind of knowledge. This is a dude that was an orphan on his own, who had spent time in like a adolescent penal facility in various places, was conscripted into like imperial service at some point, has been a smuggler, has been a mercenary, has run where we can probably assume he's run a crew somewhere. So yes, these are the things he would know to be an effective smuggler in this regard. So dude, I dug every second of this, every second of that. You know,
it also shows the intellect you need.
Yeah,
it also shows the intellect needed to be a spy, because you need to pay attention to detail.
Yeah, for sure.
Little things matter, or the saying goes, "The devil's in the details."
Yep, because the little things get you killed.
Yeah. As someone who's done like installation security checks, where I try to get into secured areas to see how security is, noticing how people walk, what they carry with them, how the numbers they use when they set up their codes. Like, I catch on to little things like that. I walked my way in as someone who's not supposed to have access to the building. I got myself into the secure talk area just by asking questions and picking up on what other people are doing and who to talk to.
And looking like you're supposed to be there.
Carry a clipboard.
100%. The carry clipboard, walk fast, dude. 100%. Look angry. That's it. That's everything I've ever said about walk around jobs. All right, so we're all in agreement there. Definitely a dope scene. We're digging that. We do get a second glimpse of the TIE fighter. It actually buzzes them.
Yeah, that's when they start
point when they're back in their little camp.
Oh yeah, that was after the march. That I cover the weapons, and it flew by. It kind of like hovered a little bit, giving them enough time to cover everything. And then they're like, oh, he probably flew by, and he's like, no, listen. And then it flew over and buzzed them, showing some bullying, which is classic Empire. Like, these are locals. Let me go have
with
some fun
livestock.
with them.
Yeah, we're gonna buzz the sheep. Yeah, 100%. Yes, again, all adds up. In world, it feels like a thing. Like if we were watching Braveheart, that shit feels like some shit the English would have done to Wallace's village because they could. Because what were you gonna do? Yes, I'm digging that. Next scene up, it's another Gorn scene. He's up on, I think he's up on a dam at the garrison site. He walks in on one of it looks like a radio operator, like a scanner tech or science guy or whatever. Just kind of like looking out and over, says they need some fresh air. They have a little chit chat there. They're talking about tearing it all down. I must have fallen asleep or dozed at this point. Dude, walk me through this one, because it obviously it's important to Gorn, because you can tell by his body language. Remind me what happened here, though.
They're talking about that's going to be the new area for the airbase.
Oh, that okay.
They're going to move the airbase to there, and they're going to have to tear down that whole area. And they're like, it's a good thing to look at.
The landscape, that's right. And not the dam. Like, they're going to tear down the dam. Like, no, they were gonna ruin nature to put the airbase.
And once again, you can see the hurt in his face.
Oh yeah,
the love. He might actually have been a local who got into the Empire. Like, that might have been his planet before he joined the Empire too.
We'd have to probably do a little deep cut or research on that, because are the Aldanis, are they humanoid? Are they alien? Or is it just like is it a Tatooine thing with like the Skywalkers?
It might have been. I don't know. And like I said, we have to do the research, but you can definitely tell that he has an attachment to this area.
He 100% does. I think they left it as basically he was whoever he is and went native when he fell in love with an Aldani.
Yep.
I don't think he's from here, but you could be right. But I didn't pick that up anywhere. We'd have to like Wikipedia that to see if that's been established anywhere. But this actor's selling all of the trauma that he sustained at the hands of these jackasses. I'll give you that. He's absolutely selling it to me. He basically sends his guy back to work, and then we dip back to Team Andor. What are we doing in here? I just want to. I rolled it a little too far. I think they are. Was this the knife point scene? No, this isn't the knife point scene. I can't lock it into a frame that reminds me. He's starting to get into it with Skeen here.
That's when he moved his bag before they were getting ready to move out.
That's right. Oh, yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
He's basically like, don't touch me, don't touch my shit. I think this is also the point where he hid the crystal in his boot, I think.
Yeah, he had it in his boot and then he put it on.
Or he had it hidden. Yeah. Which again, I think this leads into that thing we were talking about a little bit earlier, but we'll with the crystal and the the point of contention with Skeen. We'll see. Next scene up here, we're back on. Dude, lay it on me again. Is her name Deirdre or Deepa?
It's
the blonde ISP chick.
I believe it's Deidre.
Or Data, I think. Deeda something.
Deedra.
Daedra, probably. I don't know.
Daedra.
Let's call it Daedra. So basically, Daedra's in her office, and this is the clutch scene I was gushing about earlier. She's working with her assistant. They're starting to put together pieces of an actual bit of conspiracy here. It's moved beyond a hunch. They're starting to put together a fairly significant paper trail where they're noticing that, hey, these guys hit this target here for, this component. Then they went to Walmart over here, Imperial Walmart over here, and shoplifted this. And they have they rifled off, I think, like 5 or 6 different things. Like there was a lot. And so they're working through realistic levels of their job that make me believe this is an action that this feels authentic.
Yeah.
Where she's working with an assistant, they're running down, or they're going to start running down leads about how did this happen, and they're starting to connect all the lines on the board of, like you mentioned memes earlier, the Charlie Day memes where he's got the yarn and he's showing you guys all where the shit's going. But it's for real.
Yeah.
They are sorting this shit out. And again, one of the points that I mentioned earlier in our intermission is I like this interaction.
Yes.
She's the established officer. He's the junior assistant. But they treat each other respectfully. The patriarchy isn't slapping her down. She's not man-hating on him because she got stuck with him instead of some another female officer that would be better suited for the job but got looked over because she's a woman. No, this is a great scene for these two to actually do meaningful stuff that's going to yield results for them later as the investigation goes on. I like this. The ISB is the best part of episodes 4 and 5. I'll say it.
Yeah. And you get the great line in there with it's too random to be random. Yep. Because they're not climbing the same fence, and they were pointing this out. You don't climb the same fence because people catch on. You start building a trail. You hit over here,
and she also says it's what I would do. She literally says it it's how I would do it. Is how she lays that out there. So she, just like Andor, she has some intuition. She's thinking, and I like to see that. She doesn't just get to arrive at the conclusion because we enter frame and she's telling her boss, hey, I figured it out when Blevin couldn't figure it out. This is the legwork that we're always talking about when it comes to writing characters, specifically in this genre, the female characters that bypass this section all the time. This makes Daedra a good effing character. Dude, she could throw a bag full of puppies off a bridge at this point. I'd be like, she was still a good character on the show. I don't care. It is what it is. She's effective. So
you ready for my second far reach of this episode?
Oh, dude, oh god.
Here it is. This is the theory of theories. I have not seen it anywhere else said. I have not seen it written anywhere else.
Let me stop you right there, dude. Folks, you heard it here first. King Z is going to give you the king theory of theories that's never been seen anywhere. Dude, hit me.
Lieutenant Daedra Marrow is Andor's sister.
Oh, dude, come on. Dude, it's probably true. Son of a bitch. Oh, dude. Dude, all right, dude. Sidebar for episode 5. Is that good? Was that contrived, or is that actually good? Because I didn't think of that. Because one of the things one of these things I bitched about as I was writing up some show notes, I was thinking about getting right into it. We haven't heard, like you said about Ferrex the Planet, we haven't heard a mention of this effing character, his sister, since episode 2.
Yep.
Was I think the last flashback with her in it, because the episode 3 flashbacks were him on the ship and Mavra and her husband rescuing him. Dude. Is this good for the show?
It could be Andor versus Andor.
Oh god, dude, I don't know, dude. There's warring factions. There's warring factions in Winterwolf's brain right now. I feel like if they do that, is it the I am your father of this series? Is that what this is? Is it good enough to earn that?
I don't know.
Has it done enough?
I don't know. It just things.
Oh, dude,
the way she thinks. And the way he thinks, I can see the overlap.
I know. Oh, shit. Oh, dude, you might be on this. Dude, I'll give you full credit for that, too. Dude, I'll do a short video on that. Celebrate. I'll hold up the fucking sign that said King Z was right, get some candles and some sparklers and shit. I'll send you a gift card for DoorDash while you're on the road.
It's
Dude, that's pretty ballsy. I like it. And I think I would like that as an outcome because dude, I don't know. Let me walk that back for a minute. They need, if that's how it pans out, the foreshadowing needs to take place in the next 2 or 3 episodes, and it needs to be really subtle at first. I don't think it can be a Vader, Empire, Skywalker, I'm your sister line.
No, I think
they need to.
I don't think she would
to be
know
threaded
either. Like it would be like them looking at each other as they're like going in separate, like her ship's taking off, retreating. His ship's taking off, retreating. They see each other. That would be
the subtle nod to us as the audience.
They see each other, and you just see like this like knowing look on their eyes, and then gone.
Okay, so not just a hint for the audience. See, I was thinking if they could shoot, because Game of Thrones is notorious for this, where they shoot those kind of things in a way where the audience is allowed to know things that the characters don't know. You know what I mean? And if they did that ship's passing in the night thing, cue the music up the right way, be like, oh shit. It's the sister, and because you just know, you'd feel it. You know what I mean? You would know. You're taking it a step further. You're saying you'd actually put the characters in the same place as the ships pass, and they see each other literally, physically,
and go in separate directions.
I think that's less subtle. That could be the final tipping point where they figure that out. What I would like to see would be 2 or 3 separate things, like if Andor gets captured or something, they have quick passing interactions that maybe somebody mentions. I had a brother once that was born not on Fest because you don't want to give it away. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but like they need to have those stepping stones to get to that pivotal look you're talking about. That would be badass, dude. Gift cards on me to DoorDash. That's a $100 gift. That's a $100 gift card to DoorDash. Guaranteed. Mark it down, guys. You guys in the comments can hold me to it, so I'm a man of my word. So we gushed about this scene. We went off track, but it was a good sidebar, dude. Great prediction there. When next we roll through frame, I'm skipping over her having a drink. Oh, that's that same scene. We're back with the Andor crew. I think they're starting to unhinge a little bit, but it's not significant. They're dividing up like the watch rotation. I think they're trying to settle in to get some rest. They're sharing a drink, I think. Mm-hmm. Is that what's going on there? So it's pretty much that the night before.
Yeah, where they start destroying base camp.
Right. They're right. They're taking down the scale model under the lean-to that they have built and things. So that's basically they're walking through that door, that the point of no return for this arc, definitely. And then again, we're back on Coruscant and Karn's mom. And dude, I don't even want to talk about this scene. I hate it so much, but it's important here. This is basically where mom mentions that she's calling in the favor to was it Uncle Harlow?
Yeah.
I know I'm not. Was it Harlow? So we don't know who he is, dude. He could be a Hutt Syndicate member. He could be with like Crimson Dawn because I think they exist in this universe already because this is pre-Rogue One. So he could be. I mean, he could be the assistant general manager at Dunder Mifflin. We don't know. But he's somebody that has some access to resources. Assistant to that. Nicely done. I'm actually rewatching that. I picked up Peacock the other day. I'm actually rewatching it. It's been great. I haven't had The Office on in like 2 years. Dude, a fucking great show. Sidebar. That's another show review for another day, like top 5 episodes. But dude, this scene here, guy, it's just like the first one. It goes on. I'm looking at the timeline. It's only like 1.5 to 2 minutes. This shit felt like it's 8 minutes long to me. I can't stand it because he just sits there and takes it. And even when he slides a word in edgewise, mom's just there to like, and it just blows it right up.
It shows that he's not quick-witted. He can't have a battle of the wits, and his mom can.
That's true because mom's got him. Brought the knife to the fight.
And this is also where you point out where even his uncle didn't believe he was going to make it where he was.
Yep.
Like that wasn't
she says that verbatim.
Yeah, being a police officer, even Harem didn't think was the way to go. And then he goes, what does he think the way to go was? It's like, well, we just talked about that. He's thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like, it takes so much contemplation because you're that much of a family failure.
Yeah, dude. Oh, dude. See, I wish there was a better way to convey. As you explain it, based on your take, that all sounds great. And I think the writer in the back of my brain gets that. I think maybe it really is just the presentation of the mom being a little too modern America. Dude, like some of our friends had moms like this. We know that for a fact. And it makes it relatable to one level, but at the same time, I'm like, that's not why I'm watching this show. You know, so I'm running right past the scene. That we covered that enough. So yeah, 60 minutes later, we're back out. Oh, this is where we get the backstory about Gorn. I think they're on the hike closer to the objective. Vel fills Andor in about Gorn's backstory with like falling in love with a native woman, and how he came to hate on them because he is the man on the inside. Where else are we here? They're still on the move. We get Gorn again. This is a good scene here. He's doing the manipulation thing again. He's basically down in it's like a hangar or it looked like a hangar. There was a transport ship in there, I think, because they looked like they were unloading.
I think that was the transport ship that they're trying to steal.
Is that okay? So I didn't get a good look at it, and they only had the fake mock-up, and I don't think he identified it by type. But that's probably true because it would make sense that he's trying to move these assets out of here, and he does it in a slick way. He goes down there to bitch about like things not being up to stuff, that like something needed to be painted over, and I damn well told you to do it before, and it's not done. Get a crew on it now. But then he knows that his junior guys here are going to be like, it's the holiday, and it's like once every 100 years, and if we don't have guys where they need to be, it's bad for morale. And then Gorn kind of acquiesces, and he's like, all right, get to it, but no later than tomorrow, or some shit like that. So he basically let them move themselves out of the way.
Yep.
Is my take on that scene. Did I get that right?
Yeah, so he came down first, and he was like, I'm going to let you guys have only T personnel down here during the eye of something that they call it.
They just called it the eye. Yep.
And then he's like,
that's the gateway guys that we were talking about that the ship's going to escape.
Yep.
Through.
And then he was telling them, but this isn't painted. And it was like, I need this done. Get a crew down here. And then they kind of looked at each other like, speak. He's like, may I speak with you freely?
Yep. Plainly and quickly.
He's like, yep, plainly
and quickly.
And he was like, this is a crap assignment, and it would go a lot with the men. Like they say, the only thing that makes it worth it is seeing the eye. And this is probably the last time these guys are actually going to get to see it. It would go a long way to let them see it. And then he just looks at him. He's like, no later than Tuesday. If I come back down here, he's like, only have your essential. I'll prove your essential personnel down here only. Yep. But that. When I come back down here next, that's taken care of.
It's best be effing done. Dude, but it's so slick because it's just like when he was clearing their point of entry at the gate or at the holy site, where he's basically moving people, moving resources away from where they should be. But he didn't disband them or send them off on something stupid. Mm-hmm. It's a thing he can mask his motions with.
And that they also asked for.
Right, that's what I'm saying. He got them to remove themselves. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And anybody checking in on anything he's done is going to be like, oh yeah, well, it was this thing and this wasn't unreasonable. So, and he had essential personnel. He didn't ghost everybody out of there. So now when Team Andor rolls through, it's going to be like the minimal security detail and like maintenance crew that's doing whatever their basic operations are. So I loved every bit of this part too. Again, smartly done.
Yep.
And they thank him for it on the way out, which makes it even better, I think.
Yeah, and you can see the smile on his face as he's walking away.
Yep, corners of the mouth, yep.
I didn't even
subtle,
have to try.
So effective. Because these guys are jackasses. Where are we at? Okay, so this is the pop-off point right here, right? This is the part where they're walking, they stop for like a piss break, or they're having a meal break or something like that. Dude, and Skeen straight up knife points Andor's throat, right? Yanks the kyber crystal off,
cuts it,
and he's basically holding it up to the groove. Yep, that's what I'm saying. Dude, he's got it. It's in his hand. He's like, can somebody explain this to fucking me? Right? This thing's worth 30,000, 50,000, whatever the number is. And he's like, who is this dude that would wear a $50,000, almost assuredly stolen piece of merchandise on a job?
Who would come do this wearing a fortune?
Yep. Dude, walk me through the rest of the dynamics going on here, guy, because I'm sure you dig in this scene. There's no way you didn't like this. No way.
The part that I like, the knife point taking it just showed more dissension in the group. But Andor, what he does and how he points out is like, if you're scared, don't use me as a way to back out. And that's what, and he just turned it around. And then he came clean. It's like, hey, I'm paid to be here. And he's like, I'm going to go through with this. You guys are doing what you're going to do. I'm not about the cause. I'm here because my bankroll is going to be fat after this.
One of my favorite bits that come up in the middle of this scene, too, is when he mentions the fear thing like you did, and then Skeen says back to him, are you afraid? And And he's like, you're goddamn right I am. Like, and you should be too. Like, it's us 7 versus like a garrison with air support and likely 2 or 3 Star Destroyers within like an hour of getting here. Like, again, these are things that the hero would say. We get away from like the realistic. Actually, no, because it is realistic. Because I think that's probably what like the leader character is expected to say, you know, over the course of the hero's journey, or in a real life pseudo military action like this. You can't sow dissension in your own group and be like, you know, well, yeah, I'm afraid because if I wasn't, you should be concerned, because that would make me recklessly stupid about what I thought we could do in any given minute. So I was all about this here, but there was a really subtle part here where things, and again, it's tension rising really subtly, where dude's got the knife, but you'll notice Andor's hand is drifting where through the whole scene. His hand's going right to his waist.
Where his sidearm
to the sidearm. You're damn right it was, right? But before he can pull, before he draws, Tamarin rolls up behind him. I think it's I'm pretty sure it's Tamarin, and he's got his rifle ready.
Yeah.
Like, so this group is legit falling apart at the seams, and a fucking shot hasn't been fired yet. Yeah. So I'm digging that. So basically, Vel has to kind of like reassert like control over this group.
Yeah, because she's losing her command authority, especially when he came out and said that I'm being paid to be here. And she's like, well, I didn't think you guys need to know. And he's like, we're a team type thing. He's like, no, I'm in command. There's things I know that you don't know. And that's the whole point of being in command. You're on a need-to-know basis, homie. Yep. Do true that. So, you know, I think maybe I'm willing to walk back. I know I came out negative on that scene or on that theme in the pre-show. I think after we talked it through, I think maybe it was a little bit more effective than I thought. I think maybe it was about as much as action as they could get at that point, with enough tension and stakes rising without it being kind of maybe a little too much. I'm pleasantly reconsidered on that part. That will definitely raise my score at the end of the episode. But we have a little bit more heartbreak we have to work through first, because I know we're coming up on one of your favorite scenes. We have Mon Mothma riding in a car with her husband. Now, this is the height of thrilling Star Wars programming right here. Dude, I think I blocked it all out. I don't even know what they argue about in this scene. Dude, do you have any notes on this at all? I just know that it's an extension of the dinner table shit. Yep.
That I hate.
It's more of them being out in public together. He's sucking up to the Empire, being an Empire citizen, which makes her sick. But the thing that came out of this, and it was beautiful. Like, he's like, well, what is this about this new foundation? And she's like, oh, I didn't think you'd be interested because it's charitable. And that's the thing, is that the whole dissension there, just to set up that line about the foundation, is where the money's going to come for the rebellion. Yeah, for the rebels. Yeah, no doubt. Now I will go one step above even that pickup, because that's a great pickup there for what they established in the scene. This might go nowhere, but it's something that the hair on the back of my neck prickled a bit. At the end of the scene, he tells the driver to take the highway, and they divert course. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of like, okay, are we actually smart enough on the show to have the husband try and Game of Thrones Mon Mothma at this point? Not like an outright murder, but is he an Empire sympathizer to the point where there's something for him to be gained here? And is this the beginning of the fall of House of Mon Mothma? Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah, because we actually don't know when she's outed as a rebellion leader. Right. We know in New Hope that she is the rebellion leader, because she's the one who gives the brief on the Death Star. And they mention her in Rogue One. Rogue One, as well as the end.
She's actively participating in like the battle strategy by Rogue One. She's battle strategy on the ground, and wherever the X-wings took off when they were raiding Scarif. Yeah. Like, she was there. She's the one that told Jyn that motivated Jyn Erso, or was gonna or tried to shake her down for the info. So she's been outed by at least that point. But you're right, since the show is 5 years before Rogue One. I think you said
5 years,
like, on the timeline. So I mean, there's a whole big window they can play with here about when she's actually publicly outed as like being like queen of the rebellion. Essentially, she's the top dog.
Yeah.
So as much as I hate this family dynamic, this scene actually did. It sets something up, because I don't think we needed the dinner plate, the dinner table bullshit to get to here. They could have just had this where she mentioned the new foundation that he wasn't interested in, and we know that that's where the money's going to go. And we know that they were already talking about moving money earlier in episode 4 when she's talking with Rail about money's getting harder to move. We need to figure something out. This is the figure something out.
Yeah, and I think you're a little bit right. Like, the other 2 scenes is to show the dissension in the family, and that's what that's building to. Like, he's going to run to secret police and, like, say something about it.
Yeah, so he's going to brown shirt her. That's pretty much what I was thinking. But again, I think there was... They had those scenes, and I think they're useful for what they were trying to do. But again, my stance on that would have been, it would have been better to see her combating the political arm that she of the Empire from within it, because we know they are. The Galactic Senate doesn't get dissolved until A New Hope.
Yep.
Where Tarkin basically makes that remark to the boardroom as he's in there. So she's active politically now. And at this point, you can still be semi-opposed to Imperial rule because they're not. People haven't been taken out of power that they've told us just yet. That's coming. Yep. But she could still, vote no or abstain from voting. I wanted to see those interactions with people that were so pro-Empire that we get by contrast, we get exactly how for the people she is.
Yep.
And it would have been better than not going to like her daughter's piano recital or something.
Yeah, whatever that was.
Anyway, so next scene, and they never really said, and I didn't really care because I fucking hate them. Next scene is basically Vel's group is kind of converging on the garrison point. It's kind of a night shot scene. It's dark. They're basically getting in position. They're taking up spots where they can see what's going on. Not a whole lot going on. It's more like a transition scene there. Interestingly enough, and this I didn't like, Gorn's up on the bridge or the dam that he was on earlier, and he's just out there by himself with a pair of binoculars, just checking things out. And in the distance, he sees Vel's group signaling him by way of like waving a lit torch or like a flaming branch. And I'm like, huh? Nobody else saw this shit?
Well, if he's the only one out there, I don't see anyone else would pick it up.
Dude, come on, dude. We don't see anybody out there now, but come on. How likely is that bullshit? They covered up rifles and other small arms from TIE fighter detection from like 1,000 feet with like, animal skins and shit. You don't think some rando dude walking patrol somewhere else saw some dude waving a burning branch?
Once again, I'm gonna put my defense hat on here.
Oh, dude. Hold up. I'm stretching out for the gymnastics that are coming.
All right. It could be part of the ritual of the natives coming.
Oh, dude, no. Dude, hold on, dude. I have an NFL flag around here. I'm throwing the yellow on this, and that's a penalty. Dude, I'm assessing 15-yard penalty, King Z, mental gymnastics. Dude, it's one dude by himself in the middle of nowhere. There's nobody convened. There's not 70 other people doing it in different places.
Honestly, I did think the same thing. I'm like, who else is seeing that? And then she's like, that's enough. And he kept going for a little bit longer.
And he doesn't. Dude, I counted. It's like 8 seconds after and he's not far away from her. So he heard that order. It's not like it was a broken communication that came through. Like, no, he like looks and then he just keeps doing that shit for like 9 more swoops. Yeah. And I'm like, no, dude, no. It's not like he had like an infrared blinker like Black Hawk Down or whatever where he's like, and he's just sending a quick pulse. Like, my man's standing up there with a torch for like 15 minutes. That's not 15 minutes, but you know what I mean. But let's keep rolling through here.
The other part of the mental gymnastics here is that the Empire doesn't really care. They're so powerful. They don't care about the...
All right, I'll give you that, but there needs to come the point where the Empire does care, and that'll be okay. The heist obviously isn't going off without a hitch, but it'll be something like that, where the rebels' own pride will, cometh their fall also, and them believing that the Empire doesn't care to the point where you can literally do anything in shadows. Like, that's going to come back,
and that goes a little bit to 100%. Andor's arrogance. Because he said that if we go back to the warehouse, they don't even see us walking on their floor. They don't want to see us. They can't imagine that we would be, we would
do it. That we'd be ballsy enough to do it.
And that's the thing. True. And that's the other part that we didn't talk about when it was just a short little, I'd say about 15-second shot of the payroll when he was down there clearing out the area with that ship. So you know that it's in the vicinity of the ship and the payroll.
Did they show that down
They
there?
did.
Oh, dude, we didn't talk about it because I didn't. Dude, I totally blanked on that.
It was quick because you see
just,
it behind bars and you see just the racks of the of money.
Oh, dude. Yeah, dude, you're right. See, you know what the thing is with Star Wars and Trek and other like future shit with me is I always assume that the currency is digital and cyber and everything, but we know Star Wars 100% has like credit chips and things because we've seen it in the movies, we've seen it in games and things like that. So we know that that money and Owen Lars pays Jawas with Republic credits and shit like that. So we know that it's not just like a Apple Pay thing where you tap in.
They actually have physical currency.
I must have blinked or got a drink when they did that. Yep, they absolutely do. So good. So you know that makes even more sense why he clear out that specific zone to get on that specific freighter because the cash is probably preloaded or it will be loaded. That's probably one of the essential duties. They were probably moving payroll, so it's not like Andor is going to have to deadlift, several thousand pounds of cash to get over there. All right, so I'm gonna move it along here. So next up is a kind of a pivotal scene for the episode here. I have some mixed feelings on it, but let me you go first on this one. This is the apology scene between Skeen and Andor. You run this one for me.
Yeah, this is where she makes him go and talk to him afterwards, and he tells the story of his brother, which I guess he keeps that very close at hand. He only lets certain people know, and he says that's the best apology you're going to get from me. And he's like, that's all I need.
See, I don't know, man. Like all that's true. Everything you said about what happens in the scene is accurate. I don't get how. I don't get two things about it. I don't get how that's a good enough apology for almost getting my throat cut over carrying my own property, and I don't get how that functions as any kind of bridge or that it mends any fences for me to want to work with you. Like, I already know that everybody's here because they hate the fucking Empire for whatever reason. If I'm Andor, your specific backstory about why you hate them still doesn't make me trust you and not want to make me brain you the first chance I get when this job is over. So I get what they were trying to do here. They were trying to mend that fence before they get into the heist and the combat and the escape and everything else. But I don't know. I think it was probably genuine on Skeen's part. I don't think it's going to be like a, haha, I was only lying about the story and like he's actually an Imperial triple agent or some shit. I mean, maybe he is, and dude, actually, it'd be kind of sick if Nemec was a double agent. The kid, imagine that bullshit.
Yeah.
If he was actually like Hitler Junior Nazi kind of shit.
What I
that'd be.
I could
sick.
see him going off on his own. Like he might see.
Yeah.
What they're doing isn't enough. You need to start slitting throats, not just stealing money or hits and runs. He might want to go to the full spectrum.
Full on extreme.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you.
I could see him. Now, they haven't hinted towards this at all. Except, he's very off. I'd still put it that way. If you've read the Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson, there's a character in there who becomes friends with the main character, Kaladin, and then later becomes his biggest rival.
Okay.
And they started off as rivals, became friends, and then there's a respect but hatred towards the two of them because of what Kaladin stands for and what this guy tried to do. I just see this guy the same way. And if you look at most arch nemesis, they were friends first. Magneto, Professor X.
That's the best kind. 100%. That's like the most endearing, most potent kind of relationship to exploit in these kind of in genre fiction like that. It's always the mentor student or the former friend to enemy kind of thing. That stuff always it hits the hardest without a doubt. So I don't know that's an interesting branching point where they can go for sure with that character if he survives the heist. Yeah. The problem with having these kind of ensemble shows and the difference between shows as being longer than movies, the Sanderson stuff, it's Mistborn or it's Stormlight or Martin stuff or anybody else, when you have these dozens long arcs that can go. They have time to really lay the groundwork for these guys being best friends on a level, then rivals, and then enemies, and then circle back. We do the same thing with love interests and triangles and things like that. I don't know if, given how some of these shows work currently on Disney Plus, if they have any kind of long-term view for that kind of action at all. So if you get it, you might only get it over this season, would be my guess. Like I don't think this whole crew is in it for the long haul. I mean, some of them have to live because this is a multi-season arc that they have planned, right? Like they've greenlit season 2. I think we have 3 that they've planned, or 5 that they've planned, but they say that about everything.
Yeah. So but right now, I mean, if you look at the IMDb, only the guy who plays Andor is locked in for all 24 episodes.
There you go. So that kind of tells you everything you need to know right there. Let's see here. We're just gonna move up. I think we're coming up on the last scene. Looks like we're back in the shop with Rail and the shop assistant, who's obviously in on it, and probably that he cares a little bit, great deal. This might be the wife or the girlfriend potentially. And I only read this from one line. This might be my own mental gymnastic, but it's not really a massive point of contention here. Is he specifically asks her if she's checked her walkaway pack. So this is like an exit strategy that they've worked through, that they've practiced, that they've built. Maybe it's his daughter. That probably would have been a better better read,
there is a relationship.
They're tight.
More than
they're tight. Sure.
Employee.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Or even I think even more so, employee of the shop, or even an additional member of the rebellion band. I think that if he's Cutthroat Spy Master, he probably doesn't ask if you've checked your walkaway pack. He just leaves you with a blaster bolt in the back if you're the loose end and you can't get out quick enough, unless you're that valuable to the cause. Because we see Andor becomes that at the beginning of Rogue One. His guy's got the broken arm, can't climb out of the alley when the stormtroopers come through. So what does he do? Well, we can't have anybody tracking us down.
Yeah,
gives him the blast. So this is Rail jumping ship. He's obviously getting visibly shaken a little bit too, because he's over there checking the radio. The assistant tells him nothing else has come in tonight. We better pack it up and gets to stepping. Any other takeaways from here? I thought this was kind of a logical wrap up. I didn't really have anything to
it just shows how much he actually cares. He's second guessing himself in this as well. He's like, did I bring him in too late? Did bringing him in at all really help? Did he just second guessed himself. He's listening to the radio, and they're like, there's not going to be any radio. She tells him there's not going to be any radio traffic tonight.
Yeah, they're quiet.
And he was listening anyways.
Yep. Good point. That's why I don't think any of the show theorists that wanted to really put it out there, like maybe Rail's the guy on the inside, and they already had a hint of a rebellion, and they might be using one of their operatives to get close because maybe they suspect Mon Mothma, the Empire. I mean, I don't think so, because I don't think you get scenes like this for the audience to see, and also for the characters to be in conjunction with the scenes of him getting ready to put on what we think is the act to become the antique dealer. I don't think you get that kind of stuff if there's going to be some massive subversion. We're looking at you, Rian Johnson. Don't subvert my expectations on this one. I like Rail. The show needs heroes to the largest extent that you can have heroes operating in a morally gray space, like rebellions and things like that. So, dude, true that. Overall thoughts on a score, if you please.
All right. So this one, once again, falls into what I'm picking up on is the how did I put it before? Establishment, setup, and payoff. Yeah. This is the setup episode. As you see, it's the quiet before the storm. They're moving into position. The little bit of contention happens. You need it in a team. Actually, contention and heartache between a team can bring them closer together. So you have that factor. 100%. You have the overall guy who's listening in, like he is so bothered by, like, did he do the right thing? Did he do all that he could to equip this team to accomplish what they need to accomplish? Which I think overall is more than it is to just steal the payroll. I think there's another underlying factor to this raid. And it could even be their calling out card, like, this is real. And it's going to be like, look to this. True. Because this is going to be the shot heard around the world that launched the American Revolution. This is going to
maybe the old Zorro Z on the wall kind of thing.
This
like
is
Zorro's
this
back
might be
kind of
their
thing.
coming out
True.
party.
True, dude. That would be interesting. I wonder if, and I'm gonna springboard on that point real quick. If it's not that, and that's probably a more elegant solution for sure. Do you think there's any possibility that Vel has like an ulterior motive of getting in there? It's not just about the payroll. They're going to take that anyway. Do they have access at this point anywhere in there to steal anything that's Rogue One related? Like, is this like, are they stealing a component that the story was to get them in there to steal money that the crew could keep? Is Vel really being sent in there by Luth and Rail to steal a bomb or a Death Star component, or call it whatever you want?
Detonate a bomb.
Like, is there that? That's what I mean. Like, is there something more drastic than just taking money, but also isn't just like to leave the calling card? I love that idea, by the way. That's really cool.
And you see her and was it Cass is her name? The other female that's on the crew? Cinta. Them two go off because they have their own thing to take care of too.
Yes.
They're not part of the crew that's gonna go in there and steal this. They just might be the diversion. Like, Luth and Rail might have set them up to take the downfall because her mission is the most important.
That's a good point, because I got that impression too. Like, it wasn't just them walking away to go hook up before battle or anything like that. Like, the moment lingered a little too long. It was a little too not drawn out, but you know what I mean? There was emphasis put on that moment for sure. Digging it. Hit me with the score out of 5.
I am going to go, because it is a good setup, I'm going 3.5 out of 5. 3.5 out of 5.
You gave the last one 3.8.
Yep. Well, not much.
Going a little bit lower?
Yeah, going a little
Or you
bit
wanna
lower
flip your
because nothing was really established. Everything we already knew, we knew.
Yeah.
They didn't.
It was a little bit more of the same,
Yeah.
but still good.
They were just moving it along, but it's still, we didn't learn any new information in this. And it didn't have that wow factor to it. It was just another episode. You need these, because if you have wow factors in every one, you're going to get burned out. Or if you have too many of these, you're going to lose interest and move away. It is a necessary episode, but nothing spectacular about it.
Would you technically define this episode as filler?
No, I would not. This wasn't filler because you needed the logical plot movements to happen. And instead of just assuming that they happen, they're showing you how it happens because you have time with 12 episodes.
I agree. I think had this episode not had either of the scenes with Lieutenant Gorn moving Imperials out of the way, I probably would have obliterated my score for this episode for sure. Because then I think it would have been filler at that point. We're getting, as it is, I think I'll go out and say it. I think this is my least favorite episode so far. I think it's the setup and the working and the internals are all there. I think I gave episode 2. Actually, I don't think we were rating on 5s for episode 2. If I was rating episode 2, I probably would have given it a 2.8 or a 3, just in terms of nothing new being presented. I think I'm going to do the same here. I'm not willing to dip into 2s because I did really like a couple of those bits with Gorn in particular, because he emotes like a son of a bitch. The tension with the team after we talked about it, just like episode 4. I feel a little bit better about those. So I'm coming out of the 2.5, 2.8 zone. I can bring this up to 3 just for Gorn alone. And I think that we've seen enough workings of them moving towards the heist where they're where especially the bit where he was talking about, wait, how did you guys not know any, I mean, this between 4 and 5, but like specifically this one, how did you not know about like the loading weight things? How did you not know about the position of, the right pitch when Tamron was outside pointing things out, things like that? Like, so there is spycraft and logistics and intelligent things being done. At the parade march or the formation mark, that was good for everybody in that scene to point out things that they didn't know and to show that Andor is competent and capable and like leader material.
Yeah, and the other part,
so I think that's enough to get me up to 3.
Yeah, and one of the things I do like about this is that this isn't a super group that does everything right. You can see that they're a true rebellion. They are people. They are citizen soldiers.
Yeah, they're not spec
who's
ops.
not. Yeah. And you like that part of it, because if they come in and they're like special ops, you're going to move in and then you're going to need something really big to fail. This way you just set up with little tiny failures that could set this whole team back.
Somebody could drop a comm link on the floor or something and that's it. Yeah, exactly. Like if this was a group of like Republic commandos, like the clone troops from like from Rebels or from like Clone Wars or anything, those guys would go in there and mop the floor with a bunch of janitors.
Yeah.
Like should it be over in about 4 seconds? But I think these guys here, there's enough at play, and I hope you're right about the Vel and Cinta thing. I hope there's something else going on with that little group within the group, and I hope it's something that gets one of the other ones killed. I think because that's a good point to generate all kinds of conflict in that squad. Yep. If they all reach the extraction point except for Skeen. But it's the girls that got Skeen killed somehow, but then maybe they try to pin it on Andor and patsy his ass. I don't know. I mean, Rael gave him the crystal. Rael seems to believe in him. Is that the front? I don't know. I mean, there's enough ambiguity and fun questions to try and pick apart where you're kind of like, well, it's not that they didn't give me the answer to my question. It just hasn't been revealed yet, but there's logical steps that are leading us into asking these questions. And I think one of the things that's missing from some of the other shows that you and I talk about is that they just, like, the writers just throw shit out and then they hide behind mystery boxes and ambiguity, but you know damn well they don't have any idea what the payoff's going to be. So you're not sure if you're just swatting at clouds and figuring what could happen versus, you know, what they don't explain it and then they go, well, you know, it's up to your interpretation. I don't want everything to be up to my interpretation. It's your fucking story to tell. You gotta lay the groundwork here, guys.
Yep.
So,
definitely.
True that. So let's wrap up on predictions for 6. How quick into episode 6 do you think the heist goes down, if it goes down?
I believe we'll have 2 setup scenes, and then we'll see them marching in to have the gate opened up and to make sure the door was closed behind them, which is a key point that they pointed out.
Indeed, they did. I think I agree with you in terms of pacing, because the 3-episode arc theory that we're working with here pretty much lays out that episode 6 needs to be like that the set piece is going to happen at the end, just like the barricade run from episode 3, and then we'll reset the story. Do we know anything about time jumps in the show? Do they have time jumps in season?
I have not seen or heard anything about that.
I'm going to look into that because I swear I heard that might be a factor somewhere. That might have been in the larger context of season 1 to 2, where it's going to be a jump, but I'll check that out before next week. But guys, we appreciate you stopping by to check out King Z and your buddy Winter Wolf talking about Andor episode 4 and 5. We're digging it still. I'm still on board. My man over here, he's still liking the show, but he's a little older than I am, so he likes things a little slower. Sub to the channel if you don't mind. Like and comment. Any ups and downs for the show. You got anything social media up and running yet, or am I still talking out my rear end for getting you any
just my personal stuff right now? I do have a Facebook page. You can go check out Warrior Team Productions Facebook page. Yep. So I do have that up. I haven't updated in a long time because of circumstances.
Still see some of your work on there, though, right? Yep, true that. And of course, you guys can catch me on the channel here at Winter Wolf's Den, and then I'm also Winter Wolf's Den on Twitter, and the Instagram should be up and running on that soon. We appreciate it, guys, and we will see you next time in a galaxy far, far away. Peace.